Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk about the balancing equations. My name is Faisal Al Fouzan and my school is the American Creativity Academy. My teacher is Mr. Ziring Zura. Today I'm going to talk about the balancing equation. As you can see, first steps are the chemical equation. As you can see, it's correctly written to show the chemical reactions and the formulas that are relative to the amounts of all reactions and products. Reactions are rearranged atoms, as you can see here. These are the steps, are rearranged in a way that there is a law that is based on the fact that the products and the reactions of a reaction are made up of the same number and the same number of kind of atoms. As you can see, these are the concept of balancing equations. One of the steps are the identify reactions and products. As you can see, if no equation is provided to identify the reactions and the products and write an unbalanced equation for the reaction, and it will not all the chemicals are described, try to predict them. What does it mean if there is an equation to provide any situation? Use the coefficient. A coefficient, I'm going to explain it later in this section of the example questions. As you can see, the second step is counting atoms. Identify elements that appear in only one reactant and in only one product, and balance the atoms of those elements first. You got to balance the simple atoms, then go to the harder ones. For example, hydrogen and oxygen. Insert coefficients. As I said, when you insert the coefficients, you can't change the number of atoms or the element. You can just change, you can add only the coefficients. As you can see, the last step is insert the part 2, insert coefficients. Count atoms of each element frequently to balance every specific compound. You got to rearrange the compounds in a way that you can add every compound with its regular coefficient or the specific coefficient sign. As you can see here, this is example. As you can see here, this example, balancing an equation has many ways of doing this. First of all, the P4 plus 5O2, 2P2O5. As you can see, the atoms are just rearranged so they connect differently. So the types of atoms appear in both reactants and products, so you can know the number of each type of atom and the same on the both sides. Its equation must be balanced. As you can see when I said about the steps, identify reactions and the products and count the atoms first. Example questions. P4 plus O2, P2O5. I just added up the five coefficients, but I want to show you how to get the answer in a specific way and a simple way. So, the P4 is phosphorus and O is oxygen, which leads to the other equation of phosphorus oxygen. Phosphorus has 4 atoms, 4 phosphorus atoms. 2 oxygens have 2 oxygen atoms. 2 represents here the 2 phosphorus atoms, and 5 represents the 5 oxygen atoms. As I said, you got to count the atoms and rearrange them again. Let's erase the 5. 4, 2, and 2 and 5. I added the coefficients for 2. O2, O5, 5 and 2. 2 P phosphorus is to be equal with the phosphorus to the other side. You got to add a 2. So you have 2 times 2 is 4, so it's equally. O2 and O5, they're not equal. 5 is larger than 2, so you got to 5 times 2 is 10. You got 10 of the compounds that are here, so you got to add a 5 here. You can't, I will say again, you can't take off the number of atoms that are here, like for example 2 oxygen atoms or 4 phosphorus. You can't change them. You got to add the coefficients. Let's try another example. As I said here, The counting of atoms is the most important. Then you can do that, identify the coefficients, and insert the coefficients in a way that can satisfy the atom number. Calcium, hydrogen, and oxygen. And you have a carbon dioxide and hydrogen and oxygen. We have here 3 calcium, 8 hydrogens, and 2 oxygens. As you can see here, we have carbon dioxide, 2 carbon dioxide, and hydrogen and oxygen. We have 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. What did I do here? I'm going to show you. We have 3 calciums. To add the calciums with the carbon dioxide, we can't because there is another calcium there. So we have oxygen. Oxygen with the 2. So oxygen with the 2. You can put the 2. So the oxygen, you add a 4 there, a hydrogen and oxygen. So you put a 4 to 8. So this becomes 2 times 4. It's 8. So it's equally. Oxygen 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 5 is 10. When you add them up, 4 plus 2, 6, and 6 plus 3 is 9. 9, when you add them up, you can see I added the oxygen here 5. So it's equal to the hydrogen or the oxygen that is on the other side. A C3H8 is equally distributed as the hydrogen in the other side. It's 2 times 4 is 8, so it's equal. We can't touch the calcium. The carbon dioxide, we have them all. As you can see, I added the 5 and I added the 3 to be equal. This third example, as I said, if you follow these steps, identify reactions and the products. The reactions are, and the products are, the calcium, silicon, and calcium, calcium, silicon, and chlorine. Calcium, chlorine, and silicon, chlorine. We have 2 calcium atoms, 1 silicon, 2 calcium, 2 chlorines, and 1 calcium atom, 2 chlorines, and 1 silicon, and 4 chlorine atoms. The calcium, as you can see, it has 2 atoms. To be distributed to the other calcium atom, we have 2 chlorine. So we add a 2 coefficient for the calcium. So it can be equally distributed to the calcium to the other side of the equation. Chlorine has 2 atoms. Chlorine has 2 atoms. So it's distributed 2 times 2. You can add them to the same compound. Multiply them to the same compound. You're gonna get 4 for this compound. So I must put a 4 here. 2. The 2 represent the number of atoms of chlorine, and silicon has 1 atom. So silicon is evenly distributed. We have a 4 chlorine here. 4 times 2, 4 times 2 is 8. But this coefficient is just for the calcium, as I said. 4 times 2 is 8, and 2 times 4 is 8. So it's evenly distributed and evenly equal to each other. This is the examples and the ways that you can solve balancing an equation, and you can balance an equation by these steps over here. As you can see, these steps, if you just do every step and every concept of it and learn every concept, you're gonna do very well in these questions. It's very simple, and today I'm gonna just teach you how to balance an equation with a simple way and an easy way to get the answer. Balancing an equation is, to balance an equation, you need to make the number of atoms for each element the same on reactants and on the product side. Example, you couldn't change, as I said, you couldn't change the carbon oxide in number 2 to a carbon 3, for example. You can't change the number of atoms, but you can change the coefficient, and the coefficient is multiples the number of atoms of each element in the formula that it represents or it follows. As I said, balancing an equation is a simple way, and it's an easy way you can solve. With these steps of equations and these questions, you can solve any chemistry problem for balancing an equation. These teachings I appreciate, first of all, for Mr. Zering's teaching and learning from him a lot. and I thank him very much. And this is my project about balancing an equation. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that I give you a good concept of it, a good lesson of it, for you to solve any balancing equation. And thank you very much.